made it, y'all. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you for joining me as I continue my epic jaunt across New Zealand. After 4 nights with 3 full days in Queenstown, which was beautiful, it was time to move on to my next destination of Christchurch. There are several ways to get from Queenstown to Christchurch. I chose to travel by intercity bus. Intercity is the largest and most popular bus network in New Zealand. They have a large variety of destinations across both islands, but they also contract with other bus companies like Ritchie's and Grey Line Great Sites. Now, I've never traveled by bus before, so this was a whole new experience for me. I liked it because you got to be on the road, watch the scenery go by, get to see different places, even in passing as you're driving across this beautiful country, without the stress of having to navigate the roads and figure out the road signage and learn to drive on the other side of the road. One of the downsides is you don't really have much control over the itinerary. If you were driving yourself, you could choose to stop somewhere, choose not to stop somewhere, choose where to get lunch, stop for as many restroom breaks as you wanted. With a bus schedule, you're kind of at the mercy of the bus schedule. It's nice because they do have scheduled restroom breaks, and they do schedule in at least 35 minutes for a lunch break kind of in the middle. But other than that, if there's something that you see out the window, you can't really stop and say, hey, I want to go explore that really fast. Can you wait for me? Because buses, they're keeping up with the schedule. Bright and early on Friday morning, I grabbed my stuff and headed down to the Frankton bus shelter to meet my 8:15 bus to Christchurch. On the particular morning that I left for Christchurch, my bus and the bus ahead of us were both about 30 minutes late. I'm just kind of shivering with all of my luggage and waiting for the bus, wondering where it is. And finally, a bright green intercity bus pulls up. And it says on the side of the door, heading to Christchurch. So I went up to the driver and showed him the ticket on my phone and said, is this the bus I'm supposed to be on? And he said, no, this is the Queenstown to Christchurch via Dunedin bus. This ticket is for the Queenstown to Christchurch via Lake Tekapo bus. There's another bus coming up right behind me. It's a big blue bus. You can't possibly miss it. That's the one you need to be on. And sure enough, a few minutes later, a big blue Great Sites bus showed up, and I was a little bit confused because the previous bus driver had told me it would be a big blue bus, but I'm still expecting it to be a big blue intercity bus. So I walked up to the driver of the Great Sites bus and showed him my ticket and said, is this the right bus? He said, oh yeah, you're on my list, hop on board. Threw my bag in the undercarriage and I was on my way. One of the nice things about these buses was that the driver had a headset that was connected to the stereo system in the bus, so he was able to give narration about things that we were passing on the side of the road or locations or interesting facts. It's a little frustrating because we didn't necessarily have any time to visit any of these locations, but we were still able to learn a little bit about the things that we were passing. So it was a nice mixture of having a tour as well as a long haul bus ride, and it was a really long haul bus ride. Not quite as long as my 25-hour flight, but still pretty long. The whole journey from Queenstown to Christchurch took about 8 hours. About 4 hours into our drive, we were surprised with a really stunning view of Mount Cook across Lake Pakaki. Mount Cook is the tallest peak in New Zealand and also the most deadly. Since the 20th century alone, about 80 people have died trying to climb the mountain. But that certainly hasn't stopped anyone from trying. Mount Cook has been host to many climbers over the years, including Sir Edmund Hillary. Mount Cook was named in honor of Captain James Cook, who circumnavigated New Zealand on one of his several voyages around the Polynesian Triangle and Australia. But the funny thing is, Captain Cook never actually saw the mountain that would later bear his name. I know people who have been to New Zealand multiple times, and because of the unpredictable weather and the constant low cloud cover, they've never actually gotten to see Mount Cook. But I got really lucky. It was a beautiful, clear, sunny day. The lake was pristine. Even our bus driver was like, it wasn't nearly this beautiful yesterday. You guys got really lucky. We stopped for lunch in Lake Tekapo, which is a small town on the edge of Lake Tekapo. The lake is absolutely stunning and surrounded with these picturesque snow-covered mountains. Lake Tekapo is also part of the Aoraki Mackenzie International Dark Skies Reserve, which means the town has really low light pollution. There's an observatory that's really well known for stargazing tours, and it's a really great location to see the Aurora Australis, or the Southern Lights. I, however, did not get a chance to do that. There is so much I didn't get to do on this trip. But I did have about 45 minutes to explore and grab some lunch. So I did get to go see the Church of the Good Shepherd. The Church of the Good Shepherd was built in 1935 as a memorial to the early settlers of the area. It's technically an Anglican church, but it's used by other denominations as well, and it's one of the most photographed things in New Zealand. So at least I got my picture of it. I found a little cafe in town, got myself another delicious meat pie, and then I found a quiet bench by the lake where I could enjoy my pie and the beautiful scenery and the company of a few friendly seagulls. I found out from another bus driver later on that they're required to take at least a 35-minute break, which they utilize for these lunch breaks. It's organized so that the drivers from each destination meet about halfway, and then the drivers switch buses so that they're not constantly spending one night here, one night there. They're able to go home and have a family and a life in one place and not have to drive all the way across the country. So after exploring Lake Tekapo and enjoying lunch with my new seagull friends, we got back on the bus and had a new driver who took us the rest of the way to Christchurch. Christchurch is a much larger city than Queenstown. It feels a lot more crowded and bustling than the laid-back nature of Queenstown. Christchurch is known as the Garden City because of its beautiful botanical gardens. It's such a big thing in Christchurch that the nearby hospital was required to blend in with the scenery. Christchurch is also known for its English heritage and architecture, but sadly a series of earthquakes in 2010 and 2011 destroyed a lot of the historic stone-built buildings in the city center, and they're still rebuilding from it. We were dropped off at a busy bus terminal in the middle of the city, and then I had to figure out how to get to my hotel. I got this idea from someone else online. He requests pillow forts in his room, so I was like, that's actually a really fun idea. So I started requesting pillow forts in my room just to see what they come up with. The DoubleTree in Christchurch understood the assignment and nailed it. Look at that. Look at this. Enjoy your pillow fort. I've got, I don't know what that is, like a little bag with a pony on it. I've got ribbon. They put a little blanket in there, pillows. I'm loving this. Great job, DoubleTree in Christchurch. The biggest thing I did in Christchurch, and admittedly the thing that took up most of my time, was the all-day tour to Arthur's Pass National Park and Castle Hill. As part of the tour, we got to ride the Transalpine Scenic Train from Christchurch out to Arthur's Pass National Park. It's about a 3-hour journey from Christchurch to Arthur's Pass. The walls of these train cars are just mainly these giant panoramic windows. So even just sitting in your train seat, you get a full panoramic view heading into the Southern Alps. It's ever-changing, stunning scenery. It never gets boring. And you have this beautiful panoramic view of it from your train seat. If you have the opportunity to take the Transalpine train, it is totally worth it. The Transalpine train does go all the way through to Greymouth on the west coast, but our tour guide picked us up at the Arthur's Pass train station. Arthur's Pass is a township in the Southern Alps. It's a popular jumping off point for people who are exploring the area. Arthur's Pass is also one of the places where you can still find the endangered Kia parrots. It's also really, really small. There were 2 restaurants in town, and one of them was closed. So we all went to the Arthur's Pass General Store for lunch, which I did not mind at all because they had pies. Have I already mentioned how much I love these New Zealand pies? As long as there was a pie available, I was usually very happy. They also had a selection of pastries, including the American brownie. I'm not really sure how American brownies are different than any other brownie. It looks like all the other brownies, it tastes like all the other brownies, and I didn't think to ask. Our tour guide showed us around Arthur's Pass a little bit. The road through the pass itself used to be on the side of this mountain, and it was always being taken out by landslides. It was a very precarious drive, and eventually someone just said, enough is enough, we're not using that road anymore. we're gonna build a different road. So they ended up building this bridge that goes through the pass, and that's the road that goes through the pass to this day. We then had about an hour to hike out at the Devil's Punch Bowl waterfall. There were a couple bridges and a series of stairs that go all the way to the top of the waterfall. However, the stairs were covered in ice and super slippery. So that was going to be a no. You can still see the waterfall perfectly fine from the bridge and the parking lot. So a few of us just hung out on the bridge and then hiked around on the solid ground near the parking lot. On the way back to Christchurch, we paid a quick visit to Flock Hill, which was the filming location for the climactic battle scene in the 2005 Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie, which was admittedly one of my favorite movies when it came out. I saw it in the theater about 6 times. And coincidentally, visiting the unique landscape where this battle took place has been a bucket list item of mine since I was 13 years old. And now here I was, by no planning of my own. We then headed about 10 minutes down the road to Castle Hill. Castle Hill was also used in the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe battle scene. Some people insist that this was also the filming location for the scene from the first Hobbit movie where the dwarves and Bilbo were being chased by Ozog and the wargs. That was actually filmed in a completely different field with a very similar rock formation, farther south, a little closer to Dunedin, which is rather unfortunate because it would have been cool to see where that was filmed too. But Castle Hill was really unique and really cool. There's a track that goes around Castle Hill that takes about an hour to complete, and we had enough time to do it. So we got to explore Castle Hill a bit, which was really fantastic. You're surrounded by these giant boulders and this stunning mountain scenery in the background, and it's all covered in snow. Despite there being snow on the ground and ice everywhere, it wasn't really all that cold. It was really nice out. My biggest mistake in Christchurch was assuming that 2 full days would be enough time to see everything. I was wrong. But I did get to take a punt ride on the Avon River through the botanical gardens. I decided it would be a great idea to walk there. It was only about a 30-minute walk from my hotel, but I didn't quite leave on time and ended up kind of speed walking through the botanical gardens and made it literally just in the nick of time. From there, I had a relaxing 30-minute ride in this little punt boat down the Avon River. And you kind of forget that you're in a big city because you're surrounded by all of these trees and these flowers and this garden foliage. There's ducks, there's swans, there's birds everywhere. Our punter had a very dry sense of humor, which made the ride even more enjoyable. He's like, I have this giant stick, I could just pole vault myself over the bridge, or I could do the easy thing and duck.
I spent the rest of the day hanging out with some friends who live in Amberley, which is a little north of Christchurch, so I didn't really have enough time to do any of the other touristy things in the area.
While I wasn't able to take the actual tram tour in Christchurch, I was able to have dinner at the Tramway restaurant, which is basically the same thing, but in a dining car. You're in this little historic dining car, and you're served a 4-course meal while the tram just takes you around Christchurch in the evening. The portion sizes are kind of small, but the benefit of that is you can eat all 4 courses without feeling like you overate. One thing that I loved about New Zealand is that they consider cheese a dessert. The cheese plates usually come with some crackers and preserve and some fruit and nuts. I love cheese, so I had a lot of cheese plates on this trip. And that was my adventure in Christchurch, New Zealand. It was way too short. I don't regret how I spent my time in Christchurch, but I do wish I'd had at least 1 extra day to get to do some of the other things I didn't get to do. But for now, it was time to move on to my next destination, which I will talk about in my next video. Thanks for watching.